Welcome to the podcast, Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? I'm your host, Kevin Dennis.
And I'm August Joker, co-host and brand manager at Fantasy Sound Event Services.
In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago.
Each week on this podcast, we'll explore a new corner of wedding planning so you can prepare for your I-dos without the stress.
From budgeting to booking vendors to the day of drama.
Let's talk smart wedding planning.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? And we have Armana Christianson with us, and she's the owner and cake artist at A Cakes Bakery. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Good. How are you?
Great. All right,
Good.
Armana, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today.
Yeah. I am a cake artist in Phoenix, Arizona. I work on unique custom cakes for my clients and picked it up over COVID. And now this is my business.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep. I was a professional golfer in a past life, so very different life.
Were you really? Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. But now
Wow.
I'm fully immersed in the wedding world and and starting my 5th year of business in 2026. So
Love it.
Wow.
All right.
How'd you go
Well-
from golf to baking? Was like baking always like a side like hobby that you like to do?
no, I completely picked up baking and cake decorating at the end of 2020. I had been playing professionally and I was getting ready for my season, getting ready to travel and go on the road. And then COVID happened and people weren't getting on flights and tournaments were canceled. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I just kind of fell into baking a cake one day for my parents' anniversary. And then my husband told me, he was like, you're kind of good at that. And I was like, okay. And then that's how my business got started. So
That's an awesome
it.
story. That's really cool.
Well, and it's
Thank you.
something positive came out of COVID. So, I mean, it's always fun to
Absolutely.
hear these positive because it was such a struggle, all of us in the wedding industry getting through that. So, all right. So
Yes.
we're here with Armana to talk about wedding cake trends couples will love in 2026 and how to personalize yours. So what is driving cake trends right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a handful of different ones that are great for different types of styles, different types of budgets, what your priority is really with your wedding cake, because everyone has a different idea of what's going to work for them in their wedding. Um, I will say one of the big ones that I've seen are the massive cakes, the ones that are 6, 7, 8 feet tall. Clients are requesting those. It's a wow moment. It's that one where like you don't want your cake sitting in the corner. You want it in the entryway when your guests are
Yeah.
arriving. Yeah, you want to step on a ladder to cut the top tier of your cake. It's like a whole moment.
I'm
So I am
starting to
seeing
see bigger
clients.
cakes more. Yeah, I'm starting to see bigger ones now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that it's just one of those tradition things that is always around. And this is a way to make that tradition just feel something it just feels different because you're like, oh, we're taking that tradition and just like blowing it up. Um, and that's exactly what one of my clients did a couple months ago. We ended up doing a cake. I measured it because I was like, how tall is this
Yeah.
thing? It was 8 feet 3 inches. So it was
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh,
yeah.
girl, that's crazy. Oh my
So
It
you
was.
obviously needed a ladder to put it together.
I did. Yeah, I needed a ladder to put it together. I had a couple people with me to help. And it was great because I mean, just having that size cake is going to be unique on its own. But you can also do any type of style. So you can make it very you and also have it be huge.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do
And
you
how
have a
many
photo?
how many
Yeah, there's a handful on my Instagram account actually, of this cake. I've done 2 of them. just at the end of this last year. So yeah, there's a few that they're big.
Yeah.
I love it. And how many
Yeah,
layers? What?
that's
Yeah, like
yeah, how
tiers,
many
I guess
Um,
is the
layers?
right.
yeah, the one that I did at Caesars, it was 8 tiers.
Wow.
8 tiers. Yeah. And then I made them about 10 to 12 inches tall each. So each tier was very tall.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
crazy. That thing had to weigh a
Yeah.
ton.
It did.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
logistics alone, like, wow, that's and such a 180 of what I feel. I mean, we're from the Bay Area, but what we've been seeing the last like year or two has been smaller cakes. But
Yeah,
I
but all of
really
a
love
sudden,
that.
I'm starting to see the uptick of bigger ones, though.
Yeah,
I
the
am. There's
statement cakes. Yeah.
yes, I
Yes.
love it.
I know. And a couple years ago it was that I probably did like 50 heart cakes in one year. Like everyone
Mm.
wanted this little heart cake. So I am just like loving that clients are like, we want to focus on the cake again. And I'm just like, yes, please. So I'm loving this trend.
Yeah, I did feel sorry for you guys, for our baker friends for a while because it was small and no, we don't even really want a cake, or they don't
Yeah.
even want to even cut the cake half the time. They just do it. They call it a silent cake cutting, and it's not even a
Yep.
thing. But there. We're the last several weddings I've done. We're back to cutting the cake, and everyone watches again. And yeah, we're
Yep.
getting back to normalcy there.
Well, and when I describe a cake cutting and like why it's important, it's a moment during your reception to just like stop again and have it just be you two,
Mm,
standing by the cake for your photos again. And then it also is one of the few things that creates a sense memory for your wedding.
mm.
You are
Oh.
tasting your wedding cake, and that wedding cake flavor that you have that night is something that will just live with you.
I
Like an
And
love that.
that's the only
association.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I did a shoot one time where the couple, like, I created a lemon blueberry cake for them to eat during the styled shoot. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, this was our wedding cake flavor." And I'm like, "See, you only get that if you have wedding cake."
Wow.
Lemon
Mhm.
blueberry
Mhm.
sounds delicious. I love lemon and blueberries.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. Yeah.
Well, that
It's
kind
a
of
favorite.
segues our like next question is like, can you walk us through what trends you think are going to be popular in 2026? Whether that is flavor, like, are we going to see more lemon blueberry or sizes, colors, shapes? What do you
Yeah.
think is going to be popular?
Yeah. I mean, besides the super tall cakes, I'm seeing the super wide cakes too. Those are
Oh,
Mm.
really gaining popularity as well. So even if you don't want to go tall, you can go long. There's the really big round cakes that take up almost a whole table. A lot of people have seen them with the like fresh berries on top. Um,
yeah.
yeah, those are really popular. I definitely have a few of those this year already on the calendar. And then there's the ones that take up maybe the whole length of a guest table. I've done
Yeah, I saw that
yeah,
on
they're
TikTok, like as a centerpiece almost.
yeah, and that one feels really interactive with guests because you don't have to have your catering go and cut every piece. The cake is in front of the guests. So either they're digging
Yeah.
in with a fork or cutting the piece themselves. So that kind of feels special and unique, and different flavors on different tables. So clients
Mm,
are really loving that option. Um, and then as far as something like flavors tend to be more seasonal. So
mm.
I
Mhm.
definitely see like in the spring an uptick in the lemon blueberry. I pair it with a lemon curd, and clients kind of love
Oh
Mm.
god,
that. I
sounds
know.
delicious.
It's so good. In the fall, you kind of see the return of more like a chocolate caramel. Red velvet is really
Mm,
popular. Um, so as far as like yearly flavors, I feel like that may not exist, but something that I love to do that I'm hoping more clients opt for in 2026 is creating custom combinations for their wedding that flow
oh,
well with their menu or pay, do some sort of tradition with maybe what their family members have done in the past.
Mm,
I think that's a great way to incorporate something unique into your wedding cake that, you can be like, oh, my grandmother, her wedding cake flavor was, you know, chocolate with raspberry. And so being able to kind of mimic that and carry that through is just like a little extra thing that um yeah, that makes your wedding just a little bit more you. So,
I love that. I love that. All
yeah.
right, so are you seeing more couples prioritize taste over appearance, or is it truly like they want both?
Yeah. I really think it's both. I think there are a
Okay,
lot of clients who are done of with the days of like, well, it's going to look pretty, but it's not going to taste great.
they're
Yeah.
Um
fond of.
yeah. Yeah, like we've all run into stuff where it's like, I know people that do cookies and like people who've tried to make cakes where they're like, I just didn't think it was going to taste as good as the photos looked.
Mm.
And I'm like, well then what would be the point in paying for it?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
valid, yeah.
Yeah, like you have to eat it, your guests have to eat it, your cake shouldn't be dry. You shouldn't have to have dry fondant on the top. You shouldn't want to like have to peel stuff off. Um, I use fondant, but I use a very high quality fondant. Clients can taste it beforehand if they'd like. You're not peeling off this like inch thick layer where it's so gross that you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. So
It
I
looks
am
so
definitely
s it looks disgusting when you see them peel it off. It's like they're shedding skin and whatever.
I
It's just
know.
always like yeah.
It
Well
feels gross, so but yeah, I'm definitely seeing
yeah.
clients who are, like, wanting to make sure that their cake is gonna taste wonderful, and then they have someone who can make it custom and unique for them, so
Yeah, when my son's 22 now, but when he was little, he loved the show Ace of Cakes, and so they would make all those crazy cakes and design but it's like, yeah, they look cool and they look like an art project, but do they even taste good? Like, it's just like
yeah.
so it's I'm glad that people are looking for appearance and taste now. Think that's a good trend.
I it's something that's always great when clients come to me and they're looking for that because I make everything from scratch and I'm like, look, you are going to taste it before we design it because you need to make sure that the flavors are what you want. If we need to tweak things, and that's what you get when you go to someone who's more custom, and maybe not like a
Mm,
huge box bakery, I can tweak and change things for my clients. So, because everyone tastes things differently. So, I want to make sure that they're going to
yeah.
love their cake. They're going to have their first photos cutting their cake together and they're not going to grimace because they don't like their cake. So, can't have
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I feel like it's also coming back to a theme we keep hearing a lot is guest experience as far as the taste goes, right? Like they want something that looks good and tastes good, so something that the entire party is going to enjoy.
Yeah,
Love it.
definitely. Hmm.
What's your favorite trend for 2026 and why is that?
I really love that brides are sharing their wedding dress with me as a way to incorporate that into their cake.
Oh,
Oh,
I am
yeah.
getting that more and more and more. And dresses are a very big part of the experience for a bride when they're getting married and no one sees it before their wedding day. So when we create their cake, it feels kind of like an extension of that. Um, and I love getting the photos back where you can see the cake next to the bride in her dress, and you can see that it flows well with what she's wearing, or has mimicked certain design aspects of it. Um, it's very cool. And I literally sent out a design questionnaire this morning and I got it back, and she included her dress photos as a way to incorporate the
oh,
Yes.
lace pattern into it. So I've had several lace patterns. There was one that had a sequin bodice on the front, and we created that, like recreated that sequin bodice in sequins on her cake. So when
wow,
she was
that's
standing next to it,
amazing.
it mimicked it. Yeah. So I'm seeing more and more brides who are wanting to incorporate their actual attire into their wedding cake design. So that's one of my favorites. It's very personal. So I love that.
I love that. Is that really hard to do for you and your designers?
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It
in my
definitely.
head, I'm like thinking, I'm like, that seems really difficult.
Like identifying
Yes.
pieces and like, yeah, mimicking it on the cake, like I'm sure, yeah, definitely takes a creative mind for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have elements where, like, okay, am I creating like an edible lace that is in a pattern that
Mm.
looks similar to their design? Or do I need to hand pipe their design because I can't
Mm.
find like a mold that matches or that I can get made?
Oh.
So there's lots of like ways that we can do it. Or am I like tracing on the cake until I can like put the sequins on to match their design? So there's lots of different ways to do it. It's just finding the best way that's going to showcase that kind of pattern or design or texture for their cake. So
That all
Mhm.
seems very, very extremely difficult to do. So
but it's great because then you know when the client is getting it that they're like, this was made very much for me and my wedding. So
yeah,
I
Personalized,
love
I
yeah.
that part.
agree.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, Armana, is there a trend that you wish would get more love with couples that isn't maybe as popular right now?
Yeah. One of my favorite trends is using edible fabrics. I
Oh.
think it's cool. it's very
Yeah.
it's very avant-garde. I would really have to push a client out of their comfort zone to want something like this. But in the world of cakes, a lot of cake artists love this look, and it's
Mm.
very cool and you can do a lot with it. But it is very different. So you would have to have a client that's like down for the art of it to want to do it.
Wow,
So
but that sounds really, I'm sure you can just, like, push the creativity further than you can with something like that. It sounds really amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever
yeah,
seen that. I mean, do you ever have
yes.
couples that come in and are like, "I give you full creative freedom, like
Mhm.
just follow XYZ and go wild." Because I mean, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I've had it a couple times where a client is like, "We're going to leave it up to you. Just like make whatever you
Mhm.
want." Um they have asked if I could sketch it for them first
Yeah.
before I
Mm.
do it though. So they're not surprised when they get to their day and they're like not sure what their cake is going to look like.
Mhm.
Um honestly, I feel like that would scare me a little bit. There
That
would
would
be a
scare
little
me too,
terror
that
on my
you're
part.
saying that. I was like, "Wow, that's pretty wow." So, I
Yeah,
I
agree
mean,
with
I
you
feel
on that
like
one.
some
having
people could be that way, but yeah, not everyone.
no, and just like as a vendor, like you just want to make sure your client's happy. So I'm like, I can't
Mhm.
imagine like having to wait until after their wedding to be like, did you like how it looked?
Yeah.
um, no, no. So my clients get a sketch of their cake beforehand. I would say most clients want some sort of hand in their design.
Mm.
I have now tried to kind of like shift my process a little bit because I feel like clients don't realize that I can fully design their cake and they don't have to be a designer.
Mm.
Mhm.
We get a lot of, and this happens with, I think, every vendor category. You get a lot of Pinterest photos, you get a lot of
Yeah.
inspiration, and people who are creative were like, let us design it for you. And it will be new and different and something you probably haven't seen on Pinterest. Um, and I think that's a cool way to go. And you can create something that is timeless without it being
Mhm.
trendy.
Yeah.
And so that's something that is like, while like trends for 2026 are great, there are like things like big cakes or long cakes or, having lace from their dress. Having the cake artist help you to design it will make sure that it isn't too trendy.
Yeah.
And it could be placed in any wedding then. And then, but it's still going to be something that feels timeless. You're not going to like pinpoint it on a, well, that was a 2026 trend. Everyone did that year. Um, so that's what I'm hoping to do with my clients this year is like, yeah, we can take some of those ideas for trends and then just kind of like shift them a little bit and help them make it more them at the same time. So,
I love that. I
Oh,
love that. I
yeah.
feel like a big trend last year was bows. Like we saw,
yes.
or was that 24? So many bows I saw. But in that case with trends, cuz we can't escape them, how do you think social media has changed expectations around wedding cakes?
Yeah, I think that it it kind of like with the Pinterest thing and like people
Yeah.
sending me exactly what they want. Um it just doesn't leave one a lot of room for creativity for me, especially as
Mhm.
someone who is like, I'm a custom cake artist. I would prefer if clients came to me and wanted to do more of a collaboration. So I kind of feel a little stuck sometimes if a client just
Yeah.
like shows me a photo and they're like, this is what I want. And I'm like, I will absolutely do what you want. But then I don't get to kind of do my thing
Yeah.
with it. And honestly, for my client, I'm like, we could create something that uses maybe some of those elements that you love, but is also unique to you. So when you look at your photos, it feels more special. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you're looking at just anyone's, wedding details. You're looking
Mm.
at yours. So,
Do you know what that, like, sounds like to me? Like, I feel like I hear that a lot from tattoo artists. They'll say the
oh,
same thing. Like, you'll show them a picture and they're like, "Yeah, that's great, but I don't wanna, like, copy someone else's work, but we can take pieces of it and add your own flair to it and, like, my, artistry, and we'll just make it its own thing."
yeah, funny enough, I have a design clause in my contract
Mm.
where I state like, "Hey, you can give me inspiration photos, but every cake is created from a different cake artist." So, trying to copy exact, trying to mimic colors, like that stuff is probably not going to be doable. But we can take
Yeah.
elements and like create something that's your own. So, I really try to push my clients that direction just because I don't want them to post on social media and have their cake be interchangeable with anyone else's. I'd rather have
Yeah.
it be truly theirs. So,
All right. Well, kind of speaking of personalization, so when it comes to trends, we know it can get a little cookie cutter at times when everyone sees the same thing, wants to do it over and over again. So, how can couples ensure their cake feels more personalized?
yeah, absolutely. I one of my favorite ways if they're open to it is adding a little bit of color. If
Mhm.
they have
Huh.
wedding colors, being able to utilize that, and you can do it in a tasteful way. You don't have to like the old days of like, oh, you have a bright purple cake or whatever with like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
There are ways to like subtly incorporate the colors that are elegant and timeless and beautiful. That's a wonderful way. I love a monogram. I love a monogram.
Mm.
That
Mhm.
feels very special, especially if you have a one that you're using throughout your wedding. Being able to have your cake artist use that exact monogram on your wedding just adds that little touch. Um, I've had people who give me their little like dog figurines, like those are really cute.
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
using
yeah.
those. Those are fun and they're keepsakes afterwards. Um,
Mhm.
the things like including their wedding dress where we can pull some of those like textures and details, that's one option, but I've also seen it done with things like linens, their table linens from
Mm.
their reception tables, and I've also seen it done with invitations. So if you have certain, embossing details on your invitation, we can mimic that on your cake. Um, and then I've usually that's also seen on like menu items as well. So it can like flow through your whole wedding very nicely. And then
Mhm.
the table linens. I had one client who they were like, oh, it was a dinner plate pattern. They sent me a dinner plate that they were renting for their wedding. And they were like, we love this pattern. Can we use this on the cake? And I was like,
Oh.
yes. So we ended up, I ended up having to like recreate the design. Um, and then
Wow.
I used sugar, like sugar paper basically, and I printed their design onto it, and we had it wrapped around their entire 5-tier cake, um, with like gold details and everything. But it was very cool because you're like, they literally had their plate sitting next to the cake for their cake, piece, and it was the same
Yeah.
pattern. So I got their photo back and I was like, yes, nailed it. So it's just one of those things where you're like, oh, that's such a special detail. And no one will have that exact cake again, but it still felt timeless.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
That's
yeah. So
amazing.
I think
It's such
all
a
those are
special
great
detail.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Hmm.
then to get more specific, like when you're talking to a couple and you're talking about the cake design, what kind of specific questions do you ask them to kind of like pull their story out and get into the
Yeah.
design of the cake?
Yeah, when I go through their design questionnaire with them, I ask like, what are your keywords that you feel like you're using for your wedding? Because people don't generally have
Mhm.
like themes nowadays. They usually have like keywords that they use for mood boards and stuff.
Yeah.
So I ask for those keywords. I ask if they have any special details that are incorporating from them and their fiance throughout the wedding. Um, like maybe they are including their puppies on the like napkins and they want to do that,
Yeah.
something little like that on the cake. Or I had a client very recently that they're like, we wanted to incorporate the places that we've lived together. So
Mm.
Oh, that's
Florida, New
cute.
York, and
Yeah.
Arizona. Yeah. So it was really cute. And so we figured out the little emblems and I did a lace pattern like her dress. And I took the emblems of all those little locations and I put them
Wow.
in the lace. So it was like little Easter eggs. Um, but that's why I asked those questions. So, if there's anything they want to incorporate that shows them. And then if they have colors they'd like to use or patterns, I ask I ask them how they met because I think that's an important part
Mhm.
of their
Mm.
story. And if there's anything that I can use from that, I had a client who gave me a song when she was asked
Oh,
that question. And so I was able to like listen to that song while I'm sketching their cake to
yeah.
kind of get the feeling of it. So it was very cute. Um, Yeah, and then I do ask if there's more specific things, like if they wanna use flowers on their cake and if
Mhm.
they would be open to sugar paste flowers. Not all clients want flowers, which I kind of love. I mean,
Yeah,
I
because
think that
it's kinda done a lot, so
yeah, I'm like, it's very commonplace to see a cake with, like, 2 bouquets of flowers on, like, 2 different tiers, and it's, like, it's expected. And
yeah.
so I
I like that.
love
Expected.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, I think of a cake that was usually, like, made by a hotel. That's, like, a very common,
Mm.
like, hotel cake. Um, so I love when a client kinda gives me a direction of, like, "No, we don't want flowers. We want all other edible
Uh,
mediums." I'm like, "Great. That's a good challenge for me. I love that." So, um, yeah,
it
so I
makes it
kinda
more
ask those
unique, I
questions.
think.
It does. Yeah, because we have to rely on
Yeah.
other aspects of their wedding.
Love it. All right. Are you seeing anything fading out when it comes to cakes? Like no one's asking for it anymore, like the flowers on the cake or
Yeah. The flowers on the cake is fading out. I'm really not seeing a lot of people who are like, "I have fresh flowers for you to place, and that's all we want on it." That's really not happening that much anymore. Um,
Okay.
I know people are still asking for vintage cakes, but it is
Mhm.
much less than it used to be. Last year it was like on its high out there, but I am seeing a lot less people who are interested in having a vintage cake. So
Mm.
I think it had its place and now it's starting to kind of dwindle out. We'll still get
Yeah.
some people, but that is the big one because that really had kind of a chokehold for a while. So
No, it definitely did. Um, what would you say, like, you've seen over, the years, like, what would you consider, like, a timeless element for couples to incorporate? I know you touched on that a little bit earlier.
ooh, that's an interesting question. I am I I'm not sure that there's like a consistent timeless element.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
that makes
mean,
sense.
yeah, cuz I think like, well, I guess you could say, well, just like a 3-tier cake that is just like plain ice, like very
Yeah.
smooth and sharp edges to me is the first thing that comes up when I think timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Um but then you kind of rely on everything else around the wedding to
True.
make the
Yeah.
cake unique. So when I have someone who does something like that, usually they're like, "Oh, well, we have a huge flower garden around the like a meadow around the cake." And so they're relying on the flowers to be the main focus. So I think a lot of people would put the vintage Lambeth piping into a timeless
Yeah.
category
Mm.
because it's been being done since, the 50s.
The
um
beginning of time.
yeah. So, I think a lot of people would put vintage cakes in that category. It might be the only one that's consistently come back.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um besides using fresh flowers on a cake.
Yeah.
I
Love
think
it.
a lot of people now are just kind of like, at least custom cake artists are trying to push the bar a little bit on what
Yeah,
design
1000%.
means. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
All right. So we know couples make a lot of mistakes when they're planning their wedding. So what kind of mistakes do they make when ordering a cake, and how can they avoid it?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes is timeline. I
Mm.
think when they cut the cake and serve the cake is done, in my opinion, wrong a lot of the time. Um, One of the biggest concerns everyone always says, I don't want to have leftover cake. I don't want to order
Mm.
all this cake and have it be leftover at the end of the night. And to that,
Okay.
I say, when was the cake cut and served that you saw that
Yeah.
happen? Because
Oh.
usually you have a bunch of cake left over at the end of the night when the couple has cut their cake at 8:30 p.m. and everyone's on the dance floor, and the people who are on the dance floor have already left after dinner because maybe they
Mhm.
have babysitters or maybe they're older and they want to leave. So no one is sitting back down at the tables usually to eat all that. Usually I say, if the cake is important to you, if you are going to spend the money on the cake, make sure you put your cake cutting in a good spot in your timeline to ensure that your catering has time to cut and serve your cake right after dinner, where
Mhm.
people are still going
Mm.
to be sitting, or you have it moved on to the dancing party portion of your evening. So making sure you tell your planner, making sure you talk to your catering that this is something that you want to make sure happens is very important. It probably means that you have to cut your cake. Either it sometimes means you have to cut your cake before you eat dinner.
Yeah, I've
Just
seen that.
so
Which, yeah, I've done before.
yeah. And but that means that catering can take down your cake and cut your sheet cakes while dinner's being served.
Mhm.
So, because that's all prep. So that's something that I see a lot happening where I'm like, that was a mistake. That was an error if you felt like you had a lot of cake left over. So, and it's good
Well,
cake. So,
yeah. Well, and I never
mhm.
thought about it that way, but and I've also heard that the international symbol you're allowed to leave the wedding is once they cut the cake. So if they're cut the cake and people leave, then no one's eating the cake. So and the
There you
fact that
go.
Like, yeah, it's just like, and so now, like when you said that, I was like, that's an aha moment that I just had in my head, because I'm like, yeah, you should be cutting it earlier in the evening. So therefore it's being served as dessert in the natural flow with dinner. Therefore everyone's
Yes.
going to enjoy the cake.
Yep.
Well, and
100%.
when I used to work at a venue, I felt like that was like a misconception that happened a lot. Was a lot of times for some reason couples wanted to like go through the motions of dinner, you know, toast, specialty dances. They get on the dance floor, they want to cut cake later, and we would always have to say like that's great and all, but if you don't have sheet cakes and you just have a 5-tier cake, when is the staff going to have time to cut it and serve it to guests? And yeah, a lot of like older folk tend to leave once the dancing starts, and once you kind of put it in perspective, then they're like, "Oh, yeah, like they don't realize." And you know, it's not their fault, but I do think that's something that definitely needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah. And that's just
Yeah.
such a big waste of money.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And like, I don't
Yeah.
want clients to feel like they wasted money with me. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I always am like, hey, make sure you talk about your plan, like your timeline with your planner, with your venue. Make sure that this is forefront so you fit the cake cutting in the right portion. And I've even worked with like a planner who knows this up front. And she's like, we do faux cakes every time with a spot cut out for them to cut the cake. And then sheet cakes
Mhm.
because she wants catering to be able to cut and serve those sheet cakes right after dinner. And then they can go and cut their cake later in the evening for photos and it's not messed up. So if that's
Yeah.
the route you want to take where you do want to cut it later, but you still want to serve, have sheet cakes. So there's ways around it. You just have to,
Yeah.
you have to verbalize that those things are important, talk to your cake artist, what's the best option here, and then make sure everyone's on the same page.
That's really good advice, and it just like I learned that's my aha moment for the day. I'm gonna
Yeah.
remember that and encourage all the couples to go the other way with it. So, all
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
as we wrap up here, Armana, if a couple remembers one thing about their cake years later? What do you hope it is?
I hope they remember their flavor. Even though the
Mm.
design is like beautiful, the flavor is the thing that will stick with them the most. And the longest. I know, I've been married 13 years and I still remember my cake flavor. So I think that's the thing that I hope the most, that they remember their cake flavor and that they loved it. So,
And what was your cake flavor?
well, I had 3 flavors, but the
Oh, good
one
for
that I
you.
Ooh.
cut I know. The one I cut into was chocolate.
Yummy. I love chocolate.
Have you
Yes.
like since you've been a cake artist recreated your own wedding cake?
No, I haven't. I haven't. That would be interesting. I mean,
It'd
I
be a
have
Little
fun
obviously
anniversary.
project.
pictures of it. I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little anniversary surprise for the
Yeah.
husband.
Yes.
There you
Yes, I
go.
absolutely could.
There you go. All right. So, Armana, how can folks get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my website is acakesbakery.com. And then I have my Instagram and Facebook that are a.cakesbakery.az. And then if you want to get more personal, I am on TikTok. So,
Oh, I love it.
um,
Yay!
yep, a.cakesbakery.az as well. So,
I love it. All right. Well, Armana, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the I mean, I literally learned so much on this episode that I never even
thank
things I
you.
never even thought about when it comes to cake. So I really appreciate your time being here. And folks, thank you for listening to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married podcast.
Brought to you by Fantasy Sound Event Services.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me or August if you have any topic you would like us to cover.
Or if you're struggling with your wedding planning, please be sure to submit a question to podcast@fantasysound.com.
I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a fan, we'd love if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a review.
It helps others find our podcast so that they can learn from our guests too. And to everybody listening,
Happy wedding planning!